What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy, Storyteller Jet, with another episode of the Dat'z So Fire Talkshow. And today we have David Bell. Ring the bell. Let's go. And the talk show today, imagine losing over 19 franchises. Imagine facing a class action lawsuit. Imagine being promoted to CEO with no notice at all. Today, we are going to talk about how to overcome adversity and achieve success. David, it's such a pleasure meeting you. Super excited to have you on the talk show today. Let's start by doing a quick introduction of who you are, and we'll delve into the journey.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on today. So again, my name's David. I'm the CEO of USA Mobile Drug Testing franchise. We service employers around the country.
That's fantastic. So how did you get into that business?
You know, it's a funny journey. So I started my career as a young man in the printing industry.
Printing?
Yeah. So that's how I originally met a lot of the people that I know today in marketing. And this was a client. USA Mobile Drug Testing, the guy who founded the company in 2010, started franchising, selling franchises, putting them online. And I printed all their marketing material. So we provided a service, and that's how I met the owner. I decided as a young man to take a new move. Printing was a little bit dying, the way it was being done. So I decided I was going to look for new opportunity. And while telling some of my larger clients that I'm moving on, I was offered a job as the vice president of sales and marketing at USA Mobile Drug Testing. So when I walked in the door early 2012, some of the franchises were really struggling at figuring out how to get off the ground, right? They were kind of waiting for Home Depot to call.
Wow.
And while that's true, and we do some work for Home Depot and in large companies, it doesn't mean they're going to call you just because you open your doors. And so I had to go to work at seeing the franchisees to look towards sales more than just marketing. They had billboards, car wraps, a million things designed for the brand, which was great. But I'm not going to drive down Dale Mabry over here and say, I think I need a drug test for somebody at the office, and then I'm actually going to stop and take the action, right? Drug testing, I tend to find it's the bottom of the responsibility for most small businesses. The HR managers or the owners, they get sucked into having to do this either for contracts or they're truly a drug-free workplace. And so my franchisees at the time weren't asking to close the business. So we did sales boot camps. We put them through a lot of effort. We Dale Carnegie courses, customized sales executives coming in and helping write the sales programs. And those franchisees, I think a lot of their hesitation, many of them were business leaders. Many of them were top executives of Fortune 100 companies that came in. And franchising is an interesting angle.
Yeah, and I think I would absolutely love to talk about that and expand on that process. And I'm sure, since you've been at the helm of the organization, you have started new franchises and new building. I think we were talking a little bit about that earlier too. I would love to delve into that a little bit because I think that could be a very valuable topic that a lot of the people that are watching this right now would really resonate with. So
Absolutely.
yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So sorry to cut you off, but yeah, you mentioned a little bit earlier about the printing industry. So did you start that organization by yourself, or did you how did your entrepreneur journey started?
So if I go all the way back to high school, I was at a vocational high school in California, and I learned printing as a trade. I competed in their like the state competitions for vocation. I won gold medal.
Wow.
In the local area for what back then was called graphic communications, which was the whole process from design all the way through plating and printing and running the press, the whole thing. And so I was interested in it. And as a young man, I didn't know what direction to go. Came to Florida and realized that I didn't really have the work experience that printing companies were looking for. Even though I've run printing presses, I ran all the stuff for the high school, all of their programs, everything the high school needed on paper, we did it. And so move forward, I got a job in a copy center and worked my way through that. And eventually in 2006, I started my printing company called PA Printing Services. And it was interesting. I started in my garage. I got
Interesting.
a
Like,
$4,000 printing press and I put it in my 2-car garage. I leased a $40,000 high-end color copy machine, high-speed black and white equipment. I had all this in the garage. Had to put in 3-phase power, had to do the whole thing. And for 2.5 years, worked around the clock in the house. I had major companies even come, like the Tampa Bay Sports Commission. I've printed the books physically at the former company that I worked for, that brought the ACC conference here, as well as many of the Super Bowl bids. So I had my hands on those books.
that is fantastic. I did when the Super Bowl was here in Tampa. The Tampa Bay Commission reached out and hired me for a video storytelling that we were doing for the event, and that's so cool that you
Yeah.
were the one that were helping them with, like, some of the printing back then.
Yeah. It was an interesting path.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you in your garage, and obviously this is the way that a lot of the big companies got started. Like thinking about Microsoft and Apple and doing all of that. They started in their garage.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you face starting your business in your garage?
So the first thing is I was a young father, right? And so you have a family to deal with, but you also want to provide well for them. And when you start a company, you don't usually start with a client, so you don't have any revenue. So literally, the challenge was get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I ran 2 paper routes so that I could pay all the bills, and then went to work at another printing company mixing ink for them, and then literally spent the rest of the day working in my business. And I told myself this really unique story that I think people can resonate with. The first time I hit $250,000 in sale, my first year in, I was selling wholesale. I said, if I'm the cheapest, people will buy from me. What I found is they only bought when they wanted to, when it mattered. So I always got the hard projects with the impossible deadlines that needed a specific budget. And so year over year, it was, it's going to get easier when I can hire help. So my first pressman that I hired, I'm like, this isn't getting easier because we doubled the revenue. So I did that. That story kind of resonated 2 to 3 years in. And at the end of every year, I'm like, well, I've accomplished this much. And I thought this was going to be it when I hired the second employee, when I got more help. And I realized that no one's coming. Doesn't matter how much help you hire. As the owner of a business, you are responsible for everything.
Yep. That is a whole lot more stress that is on your shoulders, instead of, like, obviously your employees kind of leading over there, because now you're not only providing for your family, you're working to obviously keep the business going, and you have employees to take care of too. So
Yes.
it becomes like a lot more, a lot harder.
Yeah, you definitely feel more responsible. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you started the business, you have a young child, and obviously you're working 2 other jobs to, make ends meet.
Yeah, absolutely.
How were you able to afford that big of a press? Like, what are some of the strategies that you utilize to be able to do that?
So I was really lucky. My in-laws at the time helped us refinance my house, and I took some money out to get started. But before that, literally a credit card and a $4,000 printing press, and I started printing office stationery and going around all the industrial parks and knocking on doors and drumming up clients. So yeah, it's a challenge.
Wow, definitely a lot of challenges now. So you were able to service some of the top organization here in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the things that you did to be able to attract some of these high caliber clients when you were still obviously working out of your garage? What are some of the tricks and marketing things that you did to be able to attract those types of people?
So there wasn't any marketing, right? So that's a strange way to go. Having worked in the industry, I had relationships. I had met a lot of people, even though I wasn't in the sales, right? I was in production. And so I leveraged those relationships, started networking in BNI, And that started to have me be seen. Then I started printing for the city of Tampa, and I started bidding on projects and, learned those processes.
Wow, incredible. So now the story took you from running that business. So I guess the first question for that, why did you decide to close out shop with the printing company to now make the transition to working with
USA.
USA Mobile?
Fear, right? So um, our identity often, that voice in our head that talks to us while we're trying to go to sleep, isn't usually encouraging, right? And so what you'll find as a human being is we predict the future, and then we live into the future that we believe. And so um, printing was changing. And as a young man, naive, not really having a world of wisdom, I wanted to run away from the end of the printing industry, which hasn't happened, right?
Mhm.
We're 20 years down the road. Printing's still a strong market, right? It still has a place. And so I was doing a lot of self-help and development and personal training on myself. And I wanted to literally do something different. I said, if I'm doing it the same way, I'm going to get the same results. And even though I was growing almost to $1 million business within 6 years, um, it wasn't my future. I liked doing it. It brought value. But those companies that came to me was because I did what I said I was going to do, even if I had to work around the clock 24 hours, and it happened more than it should have, to deliver projects.
Yeah, and that talks to the value of like of hard work and doing all of that. So it's great to hear that was kind of part of that journey for you as well. Um, Fear can be a huge detriment, and I know a lot of people right now in this world as entrepreneurs we deal with that on a daily basis.
Every day.
Um, what are some of the advice that you would give to somebody that is an entrepreneur but also dealing with fear right now?
Don't give up. That's it. I mean, at the end of the day, it takes grit, right? The fear that you have, if you look in your life, personal or business, how many times did you think it was going to go a specific way and it went a different way? More times than not, it goes a different way, and
Yep.
not always bad. It opens up opportunity. So stick with it. If you're selling a product right now, people are buying it from you, do more of it. Find the one that's most successful, find the reason why they're buying from you, and just do 10 times more of it. Don't open another product line, don't offer a different service. Literally do your core and focus on it.
I absolutely love that. And I personally had to go through that journey. And it's a fantastic book. There's two of them. The first one is called The Power of One, and then the other one called Essentialism. It's about, not focusing on too many things. And I think I've mentioned this so many times in this podcast. Is like there's two circles in the book of essentialism. The first one has like 15 different arrows that are printing out of the circle, and all of them are super short. This is the amount of energy that you're putting on the 15 different products. And as a result, each of them are slowly growing. And then the other circle has like one arrow that is shooting through the roof. Is that same energy that you're putting on those type of like 15 different product or different things that you're doing, you're putting it into that one specific arrow, and that is shooting through the roof because now all the energy that you have, all the resources that you have are on that specific product. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that because that's a super valuable and key thing that people should be focusing on, trying to not trying to do too much at one time and eating too much of the elephant at one time.
Always. And early on in my printing career, about 2.5 years in, when I realized being a wholesaler, being the cheapest, was costing me my affinity with my family and my time, I literally fired all my clients. So, how that happened was we just raised the prices. And the ones that were only buying because it was the price, we made more money. We had more time. I mean, don't be afraid to fire a client, especially if they're not paying you.
Boom. I think that is a mic drop over here. I personally deal with that on a daily basis where like, oh yeah, it's a client, they're paying me, but I am spending like, a whole night working on their project and they're not paying me enough for it. Should I fire them or should I keep them? They're still paying me. It's
They're
a
trickling it in, right?
Yeah, it's a scarcity mindset too that a lot of
Yes.
people might be kind of, dealing with as well on that. I guess here's a question for you.
Mhm,
Now that you close shop of that printing business,
mhm.
now looking back over the past 20 years, do you have any regrets for closing that business, or like where are you right now?
100% happy with the decision I made. Um, every time you change your path, you grow your opportunities. And if you stay in your circle, you're going to shrink and you're going to become irrelevant.
Yeah. I have my really great friend right now, Jeremy Nuth, watching. Shout out, Jeremy. What's going
What's
on?
up, Jeremy?
What's going on, man? Let's go. Jeremy was on the show right before you and really enjoyed the conversation that I had with him. But he's asking right now to ask you about the fat joke comment on YouTube.
So one of the things Spartan Media does for me is pretty much all my online marketing. And early on, I was recording how-to videos on hair testing and drug testing in the drug testing business, and pretty successful. Well over 100,000 views in both of those, hundreds of comments. But specifically, the fat joke one, I was wearing a light colored T-shirt, just like I am, a button up. And I was over 300 pounds for over 10 years of my life. And I was struggling with depression and all the things you do. It was kind of lonely as a business owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so um, at first it was kind of taken back, right? To start seeing not only am I in an industry that people hate, right? People hate the invasiveness of the drug testing industry. They don't look at it from the safety perspective. And the general public was just not only bashing the testing, but then they started bashing my weight and talking about how many cheeseburgers I can eat. And,
Oh,
like maybe I
wow.
should set aside, from drug testing and ruining people's lives and go on a diet. There's just a million comments. And it's still up. I sometimes still respond. I get comments every month still. And this video is 7 years old
Wow.
or older. So that's what's interesting is it is what it is. Just let it happen.
Yeah.
As Jeremy mentioned on the last segment, um, get thicker skin.
Yeah. I think, I mean, for anybody that are out there and are entrepreneurs, I think it's a requirement to have thick skin. And if you are
100%.
getting successful too, like you are going to be in the public eye. And a lot of people, because of that, they might be jealous, they might be envious. They are going to find something that is wrong. And that, like, I made a post on LinkedIn maybe a couple weeks ago, and one of the guys, like, I don't know if he was having like like a hard night or something like that. The first thing in the morning that he says, commenting, like, he said on the post, "I have no idea what you just said. Um, should you just, like, close this off? Like, you have no right or no reason to be posting some of this." I do not know that person at all. Like, they taking time out of his day to like really comment and saying that. So people are going to always say hurtful things. And you have to have thick skin if you are an entrepreneur, if you are seeing any, you know, success. You have to
Absolutely.
have thick skin. Something that you just mentioned, I think I would love to talk about that, because I think this is something that every single entrepreneurs deal with on a daily basis, which is like the time of like depression, basically,
Hmm.
that they deal with depression. It's very lonely as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
uh I like to say it's lonely at the top, but it's very lonely in general.
Yeah.
Sometimes your spouse might not understand like what you are, dealing with as it
Hmm.
relates to, the business. Your kids might not be feeling the same way, and you might be dealing with a lot of other ancillary pressure. So how did you end up dealing with depression over time as you were growing your business?
So I took a program called the Landmark Forum, which is a 3-day event, not unlike many of the self help weekends that you do. And during the weekend, I really discovered where I was in my way. And that led into some therapy, which is a great tool, right? Oftentimes, people in your life, you'll complain. We all have the same problems. Every human being, our head is the same. It's designed the same. We have the same stories, the same self talk. Um, so, getting the way you feel, like I'm nervous, right? So, just saying it, identifying it, and I learned that through therapy. Identify it, right? You'll find that if you're talking to someone that you love, a coworker, a family member, and they're complaining, and you just ask them the question, "What is it you're feeling?" You'll find there's a long pause. Most people are afraid to label it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you label it, you take the power away. And so I've been doing that consistently. I've hired business coaches for the last 15 years. I've had people way higher than I am in their career paths, far more successful, best-selling authors as my coaches. So those type of people and surrounding yourself, you mentioned earlier about being in the right room, right? So I put myself in the right room so that I could have the conversations to create an environment that was bigger than me. And when you create an environment bigger than yourself, you're just called into action.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, shout out to Kyle. Let's go, bro. Kyle Rogers watching this. Thank you for your support, and for anybody else watching this right now too. Please feel free to drop up a couple likes, a couple hearts, and make sure if you're getting some really good nuggets from that, please make sure to share it as well to get more people to watch this. Appreciate you guys. So now let's transition to talking about the journey to losing 19 franchisees. I guess maybe before we tackle this, let's talk about the process of setting up franchises, or even allowing other people to get the franchise from you.
Yeah. So most people's journey, and I've been quoted saying this. I think franchising can be predatory. Most people who become a franchisee across the country, there's well over 4,000 franchise models in the country, right? So you can pick a lot of different options, from the big ones all the way down to just at-home businesses. And so they often start by an internet search, and then they talk to a broker, which is a salesman. And the salesman is trying to, good brokers will identify what's a great fit for their candidate. Bad brokers are just, you have the check, I want to put you in a model.
Mhm.
And so you have to be careful, specifically when you're searching for the right franchise. But basically, the way it works, you're given an offer in your FDD, which is essentially, this is what we do, this is how we do it. It's laid out very clearly. And then there's a franchise agreement that they will sign. Ours is 20 years.
Wow.
It renews every 5 years, up to 20 years.
What
And
happens after the 20 years?
they have an option to stay on, or I may buy them out, or they may close their location.
Oh, okay, cool.
Any one of those options. And we've had all of those in our organization in the last 15 years.
That's awesome. What are typically some of the requirements that somebody should meet if they want to start a franchise?
Most people who are going to go the path of franchising have money, or they have the ability to get financing, right? Most franchise models, our franchise model, you're going to spend around $100,000 in your first year in business with our franchise fee, and then the marketing expenses that we require you to spend. And that's on the low end, right? We're not like some of the big people. Some of the coffee shops you open are almost $1 million to franchise.
Really?
So most franchisees are people who were successful in their life. They hit midlife, parent died, something tragic. They're in their 30s or 40s, and they have that crisis. So what do? They're in their emotions. They go online. They find somebody willing to sell them a dream of setting your own schedule, being your own boss, building your own empire. And then what they realize they bought into in most of the small franchises is a job.
Mm-hmm.
They wear the accountant hat. They wear the salesperson's hat. They wear I've had franchisees come in and hire sales executives, spend a lot of money on marketing, and still not produce results because they're not hiring the right people. So that's the reason why they would come into the franchise, is someone else has already done it. So I do it so I can show you how.
Mhm.
And many of those franchisees don't realize how much work it really takes. They're glossed over in the process. Even when they talk to other franchisees in your system that are successful, most people don't talk about the pain. They talk about the success. And so what I think most people need to realize is look at the pain. Are you cut out for it? And losing 19 franchisees, many of those people who were offered our business didn't have the people skills. Wasn't wrong. Like we had doctors, we had people like that. But if you're a doctor and you have a practice and you're retiring and you want to do something like what we're doing, it's similar. It's medical, right? But as a doctor, the insurance companies will send you patients. You don't have to do a lot of marketing as a doctor, at least not 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be that expert like you see now online. And so franchising isn't for everybody. There's going to be a lot of people who look at this and say, I'm going to try that path, but I don't have $30,000 to start. So that other path is a lot different.
Yeah. So I know there are some different types of franchise out there,
Mhm.
like including like Chick-fil-A, for
Mhm.
example. They call it a franchise, but technically it's not.
You're like
Um,
leasing the building and the business.
and
It's
they
a
still
small
own.
buy-in and you get whatever percentage of the profit.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about the different types of franchises over there, or kind of what is probably like the best one out there for people to consider if they have that, like, thick skin or the opportunity to really grow one?
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that it's not for everyone.
So one piece of information you want to look at, right? So everyone advertising wants to put their best foot forward, all franchises. What you really want to look at is what are the statistics, not the top 10% of the franchises. Show me the middle, show me the bottom. Make sure that you interview people who have left, because usually when they leave loud and they make waves online because they've signed a 20-year contract and they want out. They've changed their mind. So interview all of those folks. Make sure that you see over 50% of them successful. If you do that, you're going to find something that you're likely going to fit in well with and have a better chance of success.
Absolutely love that. Thank you for that advice, and I think that a lot of people will resonate with that as well. So now let's talk about you losing 19 franchisees. Can you talk to me about the process of how that was like?
Yeah, so basically this happened months after I came to work at USA Mobile Drug Testing. Um, Half of the franchisees at the time, we had over 50 franchisees, were stagnant, struggling with the sales process and in this new career path that they've chosen, owning the business. And we had investors as well as operators, right? So it was a little bit of different mix of the type of franchisees that we had. And after a year of struggling, um, they were upset. It had nothing to do with what we trained them to do, how we trained them to do it, because most people hear what they want. And then they take the actions that they want because they're smarter than you.
Mm,
So if you can set aside and allow someone who's successfully doing it and you follow their model, you'll be successful.
absolutely. So how was it for you personally dealing with all of that? Like, basically you had 50 and then now automatically lose 19 of them.
Yeah,
Obviously, that's a huge revenue loss
it
for
is.
that. How did you handle that, and how did you process that?
So basically, I mean, it's almost like war, right? I mean, I'm not a veteran. I haven't served, and I'm thankful for everybody who does. But it's like war. I mean, in that moment, my advice to the founder of the company was close the business. That's what I told him. I said, it's not worth it. Shut the doors, move on. And the reality was he wasn't ready. And so um, I downsized the company. I cut our costs, our expenses so that we could manage on what we had. And then we regrew. And then within 2 years, I bought one of my franchisees out. So we started doing more drug testing. And then we really started advertising nationally. So just slightly different model than what the original founder had set up in his path. We just altered it because I had the grit from doing it from scratch. in my company. So I'm like, this isn't working. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah. Now let's take me through that journey of being a VP of marketing. I think
Sales and marketing.
sales and marketing. Take me through the journey of being a VP for sales and marketing now to being promoted to the CEO of the organization.
Well, as you can imagine, the franchisees that did leave us, they had, frankly, hate towards the founder of the company. They felt that they were sold something that they didn't buy. And the reality is not the truth. I was there for a lot of the training. I was there through a lot of the process. They were told what to do. Most of those folks didn't have the gumption to do the things that were required, especially calling, cold calling, knocking on doors. That's one that scares most entrepreneurs. We took an approach not unlike many companies, and I bought out the franchise from the founder. And I have a partner, Joe Riley, who's been in this industry for over 30 years, is an industry leading expert, who was one of my coaches through the process. He's still a partner today. And so the founder retired, sat on the board, kind of in a little bit quieter role. And I went to work training them on sales. And I have to tell you, many of the people I'm talking to, farther in their careers than I am. I'm half their age. They're in their 50s, most of them. And so talk about imposter syndrome. How can I tell someone when I don't, right? You know, that type of that mindset. But the reality is a state in action every day. Grind, 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 grow, grind, grow.
Yeah. So you lost 19 of them, and obviously there was a bunch of them left. How did you communicate, or how did you, I guess, buy the trust? Not buy, I don't know if that's the right word.
Regain their trust.
Yeah, earn the trust for the rest of the people, the rest of the franchisees, so they don't leave and stay with, with you guys.
So it was simple. I was transparent, right? There was complaints online, so I had no option but to be transparent. I gave them a commitment and a promise that we're here to stay, and here we are 13 years later. So it took time. And many of those folks, some have retired now in their 70s, and I consider them friends. I've spent a lot of time with them. We brought them to conferences. We took them to the industry show conferences. We kept showing up. Now we provide work for them.
That's awesome. So it's not every day that I meet somebody that is running a franchise. Can you share with me what is it like to run a franchise, and what are some of the beauty or like hurt, or I don't know, like exactly, like what are some of the inside things that you can share with our viewers to what is it like to run a franchise?
So I have 7 kids. And when I got into the franchising industry, started working with 50 different franchise personalities.
Wow.
Every single one of them had a different personality. They had a different goal. My analogy is it's like herding cats because it's impossible. It feels impossible. There was months and years where it felt impossible. How can I align the communication we're delivering to our customers and the franchisees follow that path? And so it came with trust. It came with selling their drug test. It came with showing them opportunities that they didn't see because we had already done it. And as they started to become successful and grow their businesses and hire staff and support their families, the trust just continued to grow.
I love that. So how many current franchise do you have right now?
We have 18 active franchisees. I have bought 3 of them out, so it's 21 locations. But we're a national franchise, so we service anyone in the whole country, not just in those specific areas.
That's awesome. I love it. Earlier you mentioned through that whole process, the previous owner, wanted to step out of that.
Mhm.
What was it like for you as a VP of sales to figure out how to buy out that franchise from them?
You don't get what you don't ask for. So I simply asked for what I wanted that I know could work, and we worked it out. And it was like that. It was fast.
That's awesome. I think there is like a really great advice in this right there for the people. You do not get what you do not ask.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think there is like a really great nugget there. So, also, you were going through some class action lawsuit through all of
Absolutely.
that. Can you share some light of like, how that transpired?
Yeah. So there was never actually a lawsuit. They hired an attorney, and not like many attorneys, they're looking to help their clients, and they're going to leverage anything. Negative PR was his tactic. Go online, do a smear campaign anonymously. Nobody who went online and complained put their name on it. They are clearly franchisees doing this at the advice of the attorney who claims he didn't say that. If you haven't been through lawsuits or divorces or any of those types of things where you've dealt with lawyers and courts, they came with their complaint, mediation, negotiation, and then we resolved it.
Yeah. How did you guys come to that
So
conclusion and
in
resolve it?
that time in our business, we were at a place, as I mentioned, I'm like, okay, revenue's down. There's less franchisees. We're working on growing. We're investing. Didn't leave a lot of extra room. So there was no payouts, no settlements. It was literally, look, not everyone who you think is your customer, and these franchisees were my customer, need to be my customer. And so I said to them, I'll let you go operate under your own brand. I'll stop poking you. You stop poking me. And we walked away.
Mm,
And a couple of them are still in business, but most of them closed their doors.
wow. Wow. Now let's transition to marketing. Obviously, as a franchise organization and that has franchisees, how do you market your organization? Like, do you help your franchisees with marketing as well? I know I'm trying to like set up my man Jeremy Knopf over here with his awesome business, doing PR and doing all of that. But can you shed some light on how do you market as a franchise? And also, how do you help your franchises, get the word out?
So obviously online is how we're found, right? And we have firsthand knowledge in 2012. So some more adversity in my first year in the business. And when Google gave us the Panda update,
Mhm.
we were outranking the Department of Transportation's website for DOT drug test.
Wow.
So if somebody was searching for a DOT drug test, we would come up. There was lots of different strategies. The founder of the company says, I don't care what we have to do. I want to be at the top. Well, sometimes that comes with shortcuts, which I don't advise. Never take a shortcut unless the shortcut it makes sense, but not with your online reputation. You can't take shortcuts. And so because they constantly update their algorithm and how you're found, whether it's backlinks or those types of things, that's altered completely different today,
Yeah.
right? It's no longer the same, but that's how we started. We started by putting out a lot of good content, sharing that content through newsletters, sharing that content through social media, getting in front of the HR industries. We hosted conferences and shows. We were in Vegas at all the HR conferences, representing the company for the franchisees. So then they could travel to those events, participate like it's theirs, walk away with leads that are local to their business.
Love it. What are some of the things that you have done, like as a follow up to the previous show that we had around PR?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things that you have done with Jeremy that has moved the needle the most for you in your business?
So the first thing was getting over my fear of being on camera, being over my fear of telling the story that I just told you. And from a PR perspective, putting a lot of article content in front of the type of audience that want to consume what I have to say. And so more and more media outlets are looking for things that I have to say, which then turns into having better credibility and being found through AI because you're linking back from credible sources. Because AI, as Jeremy mentioned in the last segment, they're looking to answer all the questions themselves. And so if you're just out there on your little website, and I say little, you might have thousands of visitors a month, but if you're not promoting it in the right places, or you're not being seen as someone who knows exactly what needs to happen in the industry. You're not being seen as an industry expert. I joined the board of directors of the National Drug and Alcohol Screening Association. I served there for 2 years. So those types of things put you in front of the public and then builds credibility. People look at you if you can hold that seat as somebody who must know what they're talking about.
Love
and
it.
so that all of that picture helped my franchisees with getting more business.
I love it. With a lot of hate, obviously the drug testing industry is not very sexy, and a lot of people probably do not want to be associated with that because you get a lot of like negative connotation.
Of course.
People might be losing their job because of obviously they are in fault if that happens. How do you deal with those negative connotation or the negative responses online for people that may not like what you guys are posting or what you're standing for?
I reach back into my memory banks when I've stood at business locations. I remember flying 2019, right before COVID, I think, or 2020. It's hard to remember exactly. I flew to California there was a bottling company, sodas, and they wanted us to do a company drug sweep. They wanted to test all 150 people at the plant at one time. And so I flew out to head that job, and I was participating in testing. And one of the individuals who tested was an elderly man. He was an equipment operator, and he failed the drug test for marijuana. And he's probably been using his whole life, and he's figured out how to manage. But because the company has to take safety seriously, you could see it on his face. You could see his life was going to be different. And so what helps me get through the negative comments are that we help companies write policies to give people a second chance. Show me a human being, and I'll show you somebody who's made a mistake. Period.
Love that. Now that we're getting to start to talk about that, can you share some of the craziest stories that you've had using USA Mobile, going to screen some specific organizations and some of the things that kind of happen?
Yeah, I mean, crazy things. So oftentimes when we first started the business, I said we had like car wraps and signage. We learned that first year that doesn't work out too well. When you show up to a major port in the United States and you have drug testing on your vehicle, you're telling somebody in which you were supposed to potentially show up and test unannounced that the drug testing people are here. And so in one specific case in a major port, there was several employees that literally ran off the job site so they could avoid being drug tested. They didn't even know if they were on the list, but they left. My kid's sick. Like one of the guys literally ran through the gate, got in his car and drove off. So whether he quit just so he didn't have to have a negative drug test or he ended up showing back up or how that went, I don't know. But, to have people run away is kind of crazy.
Now let's transition. Obviously, this must be a very stressful job because obviously with some of the things that you are doing, as a CEO that is running, 18 franchises, how do you deal? Like, what does the mindset look like? How do you deal on a daily basis? Like, running a nationwide organization. What are some of the tips that you would give, like, to the little guys like us over here running a smaller businesses as well?
So one of the takeaways is hire and hold people accountable. I can tell you that wasn't my strong suit, right? If you are looking at the world of integrity around your word, if you're not holding your word, which like everyone, I don't always keep my promises, then you often have a hard time holding someone else accountable because now they're going to look back at you. Are you someone who's being accountable? Why are you going to ask me to be accountable? Forget that whole story. Don't fall into it. Hire, hold people accountable. Very critical. So you have to have a clear definition of what you're asking people to do. They have to understand what you're asking them to do. They have to want it, and they have to have the capacity to do it. And so if you put all those pieces in place and then you measure have proper KPIs so that the deliverables are there and it's a fair exchange. I mean, I think people are important. Our workplace, our environment is that we're no drama. Everybody has drama. We all have our own, but don't bring it to work. And if your life is impacting you in a way that you have to miss work, we can help each other out.
Yeah,
But don't be a drain on the system because you won't stay working for me.
absolutely.
So people are a pivotal foundation in your business.
I love that. What is the craziest thing that people have been, able to be tested for?
So what's really interesting is people back when synthetic marijuana you buy at the gas stations, it's like potpourri. They sell it as potpourri, and people are smoking it now. It's everywhere. You can buy the CBD and all that. But in that space, we don't actually test for the largest variety of things that are out there because money. The laboratories, the device manufacturers are only making the devices or only opening up their laboratories for the highest volume tests. They don't like doing one-offs.
Interesting.
Now, we do test for a wide array, even synthetic marijuana. But if the law doesn't have it be illegal, then an employer often can't do anything about it. So we don't test for it unless it's an illegal substance, which is why they're trying to reschedule marijuana in the federal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about legality, what are some of the things that are legal or illegal for like employers to test for?
If you put it in your policy and you're a drug-free workplace and you publish that to your employees and give them adequate notice, you almost can test for anything, depending on if it's going to impact your business.
Yeah. What does the notice look like? Because you mentioned earlier that sometimes you just show up and just kind of unannounced and doing all of that.
So inside of your drug testing policy, what you're going to do is if you make a change or you're implementing a new policy, you're going to give a written notice 30 to 60 days in advance, depending on the state. And there's requirements in each state. Typically 30 days, some states are 60. So the employees are going to receive this communication and you're going to tell them about the program, all the drugs that you're going to be tested for, and that it's random if that's what you're doing, which means we're going to show up unannounced and we're going to ask you to provide a sample, and then that test is going to determine your employment.
Interesting. So like when for the docs of people, obviously you showed up over there.
Yeah.
So they received like proper notice way beforehand.
All of the employees that work there know drug testing can happen at any moment for any reason. If I have an accident, it's guaranteed to be tested because they want to mitigate their expense, right? Yeah. If you're using drugs and it causes an accident.
Did you have any moments like this where something crazy happened, like somebody was operating a machinery or like, having a truck accident that you guys had to go test for? You have any crazy stories that you can share?
They're more tragic.
Wow.
They're more tragic. Over the last few years, another large segment that we service is the workers' comp industry. And so in that case, we're usually picking up a blood sample from a hospital that was taken at the time of accident. Because in some states for workers' comp, you can't use a urine drug test because it looks back for 2 weeks. It's not telling you they were impaired at the time of the accident, where in the blood it metabolizes and you can find those things and it can give you a better range. And so the fatalities. I remember early in my career, really early, like around 2014, going to a fatality here in North Tampa. There was a there was a huge truck parked on the road unloading at one of their stores, and someone was following them, jumped out of the way, and that person dies, right? And so they're testing the truck driver who parked in the main road. So the fatalities are tragic. They're tragic because sometimes we have to balance supporting the donor, the employer, and the workers' comp company all at the same time. So it's a little bit crazy.
Yeah. Wow. And there's a lot that you shared over there that I've never thought about in the past because obviously I'm not in that industry. So thank you for enlightening me. So we are nearing the close of the talk show today. So there's I guess I called it like a rapid fire kind of questions that you have. What is the top one advice that you would give to somebody as it relates to your journey of overcoming adversities to achieve success?
Pretty clear. What you think you're going through now will not be the same next year. It's always going to get better. Always does.
I love that. What is your $1 million advice? I ask that question every single time in the talk show. What is your $1 million advice for somebody starting his business today to achieve that?
I'm real clear that if I didn't hire consultants, coaches, people have been doing their own businesses or working as executives at other companies that could coach me through it, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Awesome. Now, finally, what is the next 5 year look like for you?
So now what we're doing is we're growing the company and marketing to a couple of different segments, like I mentioned earlier, the emergency testing. It's the hardest thing to do to show up in less than 2 hours anywhere in the country. And we don't hit every pocket, but you can imagine what that's like. And so the next 5 years is we're implementing more processes, better security for our data, and measuring things in new ways that we weren't before. Those KPIs are pretty critical. So we're growth, nothing but growth.
Yeah. What is the importance of KPIs and systems and processes?
What's the importance?
Yeah.
I can tell you because I didn't have them for many years. In my printing company, I'll tell a story on myself, which is kind of vulnerable. So when I closed my printing company, I had over $200,000 in aging. Some of that was months and months old. Like I said, don't be afraid to fire your clients if they're not paying you. And so I didn't have those KPIs. I had 4 months of invoices that I hadn't made yet. And, you know, these are the things you learn when you're young. You kind of think, well, I've got enough. I'm making it. I'm not starving, you know, so it'll come when it's supposed to come. No. You have to get paid today. I now have one individual who owes me almost $300,000 who decided to walk away from the last end of $1 million project.
Wow.
And closed his doors. So you just have to, that says enough.
Yeah, that's awesome. Man, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Like, learned a ton about your journey, about overcoming adversity, and also, man, from losing 19 franchises, from dealing with lawsuits and all the other stuff. Your story is very inspiring, and thank you for coming on the show today and sharing it. For anybody watching this that wants to learn more about your business, USA Mobile Drug Testing, or that might be even interested in, launching a franchise with you, how can they get a hold of you?
The easiest way is go to our website. It's usamdt.com. That's usamdt.com. That has all our phone numbers, our contact forms. We can get right back to you.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Thank you so much for being in the show. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your advices. Super grateful for that. There you have it. It's fire, baby. Let's go. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next time. Let's go, baby.